Sony unveiled the PlayStation 2 at the Tokyo Game Show on September 20th of 1999, along with a few upcoming games. These games were Tekken Tag Tournament and Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec, which at this point was just called Gran Turismo 2000, which is funny because that game didn't release until 2001. The main selling point of the PS2 at the Tokyo Game Show at that time was the DVD player that they built inside the PlayStation 2, which would later come to define the whole console. This is probably why it sold so well. The PS2 formally came out March 4th of 2000 and sold 500,000 units in its first day. The PS1 only sold 1/5 of what the PS2 sold in its first day, so the fact that Sony was an established brand already really helped their sales. The PS2 had a launch price of $299 and launched with many games, these being Armored Core 2, DOA 2 Hardcore, Destiny Warriors 2, ESPN International Track and Field, ESPN X Games Snowboarding, Eternal Ring, Evergrace, Phantom Vision, Gun Griffin Blaze, Kessin Mountain NFL 2001, Midnight Club MotoGP, NHL 2001, Orphan, Cue Ball Billiards Master, Ready to Rumble Boxing Round 2, Ridge Racer 5, Ridge Racer, Silent Scope, Smuggler's Run, SSX, SSX, Street Fighter EX3, Street Fighter, some more, Swing Away, Tekken Tag Tournament, Time Swinters, Unreal Tournament, Wild Wild Racing, and finally, X Squad. Okay, so that was all 30 launch titles. That's a lot. And if a console had a launch like that, that would be absolutely insane. And somehow Sony did that. So, going back down the list, there's a lot of games that no one really cared about, and no one really cares about now, but there are a few games that are still pretty good, like SSX, Ridge Racer, and Midnight Club. So, once you filter out all those other games, you're left with an okay launch. I mean, 3 games isn't a ton, but it will hold you over probably. Even with a decent launch, there were still a few problems that Sony came across in regards to the PS2. Those included faulty memory cards, a lack of memory cards, and really choppy playback for DVDs. So, Sony kind of ignored all that and just kind of didn't fix it at all. And people just had to deal with it. People rumored online that Sony would be doing a PS2 memory card recall, and they never did. Unlike the launch of the PS2, which had a lot of quantity and not a lot of quality, in 2001, Sony seemed to focus more on quality over quantity, and they released a few fantastic games for the PS2. In 2001, Sony released Final Fantasy X, which was notorious because you had to have a hard drive to run the game, Grand Theft Auto 3, which was the first 3D Grand Theft Auto on the PS2, Metal Gear Solid 2, Silent Hill 2, which is really expensive now for some reason, Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, Inco, Twisted Metal Black, Max Payne, and many more games. In the year of 2001, Sony had sold 10.8 million units of the PS2, which was most likely because of the quality of the games at that time. On October 10th, 2001, IGN wrote an article about a series of colored PS2s that would only be available for a limited time in Japan, and it was called the Automobile Collection, because the Sony president's favorite cars were made of these colors. These colors were Super Red, Astral Blue, Light Yellow, Metallic Silver, and Snow White. Only 2,000 of each color of these consoles were sold, and these are some of the most expensive and sought-after PS2s to this day. The next year, 2002, saw the best year of the PS2's lifespan. In the span of that year, the PlayStation 2 had sold 30 million units, which was more than double from last year. The most notable games of that year were Medal of Honor Frontline, Time Splinters 2, GTA Vice City, Sly Cooper, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, Ratchet & Clank, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4, and Hitman 2. All these games are super well known today, so you could say that the PS2 had a pretty good year. Now it's 2003, and Sony had a decent year. I mean, it wasn't at the top like some of the other years, but some notable games released, like Ratchet & Clank Going Commando, Jak 2, I Ninja, Beyond Good and Evil, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, and an expansion of Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy X-2. 2004 saw the introduction of the PS2 redesign, the PS2 Slim, which launched at a price of $199 and was much smaller than the original PS2. This model was a top loader, meaning that the disk drive was accessed by having the top part of the console pop open. I mean, this was probably half the size of the original. One key feature of the PS2 Slim was that it now had an Ethernet port, which really helped boost the online community of the PS2. One downside to the PS2 Slim, though, was that they got rid of the expansion bay, which would help you play games like Final Fantasy X, but not very many games used the expansion bay, so this wasn't really a huge loss. Let's fast forward to 2006. Oh, the PS3's out. So you may know where I'm going with this. Even with the PS3 out, the PS2 was still being supported because of the large user base that Sony had with the PS2. With a large amount of games already out, people didn't really want to give up their PS2s just yet. Also, Sony made a big fool of themselves at E3 2005 when they unveiled the PS3 and they tried to sell a 20GB model for $500 and a 60GB model for $600. So, up until this point, the PS2 was still the better option if you wanted to play video games. So, this made it so a lot of PS3 only games were being downgraded and put on the PS2. Games like Need for Speed Undercover, Call of Duty World at War, Spider-Man 3, Madden 07 all had PS2 versions along with PS3 versions. 2009. Remakes for the system were still being made until Sony announced the Ps3 Slim. This was a fully redesigned PS3, throwing out all the USB ports, card reader slots, and the backwards compatibility. Wait, no, I wanted that, give it back. The redesign, which was now $299 instead of $499 and $599, slowly started catching people's eye, and they slowly started abandoning the PS2. At least in the US, that is. 2010 to 2013. In countries like Brazil most notably, the PS2 lived for many more years because apparently Sony dumped all their PS2s in Brazil and the Brazilians started selling their consoles locally. That's how the console was able to survive for so long. The PS2 is now the best-selling game console of all time, and it had a long and fulfilling life, and it'll probably be remembered for a long time.